asked me, do you have anything to share? And I said, well, I could share a testimony of just something simple, like one part of my story, something that God did through this participation in Deconstructing Racism. And I want to give a shout out to all the artists who have contributed in here, because one of the things that blessed me so much and really opened the door to the transformation I experienced was your artwork.
Thank you.
Because when I came on the first night, we hosted it in this room, and I was, I've been in school for too long, and I was expecting a certain thing. I was expecting, okay, we're gonna have a lecture, we're gonna have probably some prayer, we're gonna talk, and I'm gonna hear a lot of words that I hear buzzing around all the time. And I came in here, and Deirdre's like dancing. and honestly though, it cut me to the heart, because I realized that the transformation that I needed was by no means an intellectual one. Like, I can't think myself out of my own racism. And a lot of the groundwork that I had already done, it was mental, but I had to go someplace in my heart. And so I sat there and I was just praying, because I was like, I don't know what to do with this experience right now. I'm just gonna pray. And I was like, Lord, why am I here? Why did you bring me here? And I've been in California now for about a year and a half. I married my husband in Michigan, and we moved out here. And the church that we are a part of out here is majority Asian American. And that has been quite a journey for both of us. Because, again, in my background, I had very limited experience with Asian American culture and all the different subcultures and categories within that. And I had realized that after we belonged to the church for about, probably 3 or 4 months, I think, when we started Deconstructing Racism. And for reasons I couldn't explain at that time, I just started having this very negative reaction toward, like, my Asian American brothers and sisters in the church that would creep up. And I would shove it down, because I was like, this is not a thing. Like, I'm not, I'm not what? And when we were in the room that night and I asked God, why am I here? He brought that right to mind. And I looked up, and a dear friend of mine is Erin Choi, and she was singing. And I just stared at her for a very long time. And God's like, you're afraid. And I realized, I was like, man, okay, I've been in this church for long enough to start to be familiar, to start to put down roots. And because of my privilege and my background, I've usually been in the majority in the churches that I'm a part of. And I've never had to wonder, like, oh man, I'm kind of the different one here. Like, what if they don't accept me? What if this, and this? And I realized I just I built up this fear that was there, and I didn't have a name for it until that night. And as we were praying and as we were singing, I was like, God, I want that to be broken through. And since that night, there's just been this this greater freedom and honestly love in my heart. Like, I just started crying when I was looking at Erin. And I was like, wow, I've accepted you on a deeper level, not just as you're my sister in Christ, I'm gonna just kind of interact with you here. I'm like, I really, really saw you as Asian, and now I want to ask you more about that, and now I want to know more about what you think about that and more how you feel. And just the conversations that I have been able to have since that day they've been deeper, and they've gotten closer to what's really going on in our hearts, which I feel like is what I've learned in the big picture at Fuller about race and racism, is just that it's so much more than, a thing to talk about. Like, one thing we brought up, Monica and I were in the same group, we would talk about, like, when whiteness walks into the room, like as a presence, and just the spiritual dimension of that. Anyway, I've come to deal with it on a deeper level, and that's an ongoing journey, but I'm really grateful for your work and, just the artistry. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah, for your compassion, your truth. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that with us, because that's transforming in itself. I know for me, I'm sure for others also. And for you to be open and honest, willing to surrender that to God, and willing to go beyond the intellectual to step into the embodiment of what God wanted to do in and through you, to heal you, to liberate you. And so thank you for journeying with us, because we could not have done this without you. And you're such a powerful woman. You're always smiling, and I just love seeing you. You're just always so precious and always so encouraging. So just thank you for your honesty, and I'm so thankful that that you were open to journeying with the Holy Spirit through the arts, so that God could heal and liberate. Does anyone have any questions for Hannah? All right, so give her a clap. Is there anything else you want to share? Okay.
Do you have a question? Oh.
Okay. All right, we're going to have one more story before we move to some art. So, this is a powerful man of God, multi-talented, writes music, composes music, always blesses us in such phenomenal ways. Come on up to the stage, Aaron. Give it up to Aaron. All right, let's have a hand clap on him. Okay, Okay, Mr. Aaron. Aaron has been a leader with us, so he's been part of this journey of creating everything together for us. So Aaron has a story that he's going to tell, so I'm just going to let him talk.
I really don't have all too much. I feel like what I can do is just, number one, say, Deirdre, thank you for initiating this. I think that one of the unique things about the way that these groups came about was it relied on different strengths, on different people really contributing themselves. It really would not, like, for example, I don't start things. I would never have started this. I was happy to be a part of it, but would never have started it. It took somebody with the kind of vision, kind of commitment that you have, and that goes for everybody involved. I know Maria was instrumental in thinking through exactly how is art involved, what are we doing here. I feel like for me, the process was, if it was helpful in any way, it was really that I kept having conversations with some of the same group members, and I remember it was about halfway through that I felt able, we talked more directly about white fragility. And I realized how necessary, I almost wished that had been one of the first conversations that we had. My tendency, I think, is to edit intensely what I'm saying, what I'm doing, how I'm behaving. Having navigated white spaces for a long time in a myriad of ways, I'm just well acquainted with how easily frightened different people, especially white people, could be when it comes to the conversation of race. And that began to have a long-term effect on me. You're just around that fear all the time. you just begin to really hold yourself back. And you begin to really, to try to put some distance between who I am and how I express myself, so that I don't provoke anybody's fear. And that's actually something that I would say day to day I'm incredibly conscious of. I'm a tall black man with dreadlocks. I've seen people steer clear of me, walk around me. I've seen the nervous glances over their shoulder if they think I'm walking up behind them. I've seen all of that, let alone the fact that I'm just, when it comes to certain environments, I'll just say what I think, and I can just watch it oh. And so we're in this group and we're chatting about it, and it was online. It was just one other woman, a white woman, and it was just relieving to me to see evidence of somebody, because basically what I told her is I was like, I actually don't have the energy for this conversation with all these different people. And what she responded was, she was like, no, we should be doing that as a white woman.
Oh, that's good.
She was like, you're right. She's like, that's unfair for us to expect this of you. For us to expect for you to do this on every occasion. And that just, it meant a lot to me, and we ended up having a great conversation about what does that look like? How can you observe that? How can you be a support? What does it look like to educate your friends, as Monica was saying? It's just so important, because I think the effects of white fragility, and it's something I keep thinking about, are actually pervasive. It actually affects the people around them. It actually sets the temperature for what's appropriate and for what's not, for who can express themselves and who cannot. It has a dominating effect, this fear does. And I think it's because it's a fear that makes it so pervasive. If it was just an idea, I think you could get over it pretty quick, potentially. But because it's a fear, you can think the opposite and still participate in that fear. Yeah. You can think to yourself, this is all good, but still have this gut reaction. And I feel like that is why the way that we went through this was so important. As everybody said, the artwork, the personal investment, the prayer that was put into it, because it really takes something that speaks to your whole body to help you navigate a fear like that. That helps you begin to actually let your guards down in some way. So that's really my story. I was just grateful for this opportunity to participate in this, and hopeful that these kinds of conversations will continue to just create small pockets of change, knowing that it's limited, but it's incredibly meaningful for each individual that experiences that, for each community that's touched by those people.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron. We appreciate you as a leader and all of the wisdom and what you gave to us as part as leaders, as well as to the participants. And so thank you for sharing your journey. And I want to say that I like what you said about, I'm thinking about what you said about white fragility in terms of how it kind of affects the whole space, and how, when you were talking about how, and for me, I guess I can talk for me, how I respond. Sometimes I shrink, I guess, on the inside, and I was thinking, when you were talking, well, how do I respond? I'm thinking, oh, I'll shrink on the inside, like I'm less than. But that's something that Monica and I talked about. So, and then when we did our prayer at the end, I didn't tell her anything. I just, but God led her in the prayer. And as she was praying, she said, you're more than enough. So it's like God gave her everything to say without my even saying it. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for your wisdom and your leadership. Does anyone have any questions of Aaron? All right, give it up for Aaron. We actually have 2 more people before we go to the song. Then this is, okay. Thank you so very much. Give it up for Nicole. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Okay, Maria, can you come up and share a little bit? Okay. Put you on the spot? Okay. Leaders, you know me. Okay. So Maria was a leader and just really critical to our getting. She and Gretchen have great logistics that they do together. That is just really amazing.
Yeah, so since I didn't participate in any of the groups.
Yeah, but you didn't have to. You couldn't
Yeah.
have, I mean, we couldn't have done all of this,
Right.
you're talking about what we did.
So my dissertation topic is a African-American artist named Deirdre. And it's through exploring his artworks that I got to learn a lot about race and race relations. And one of the things that I did learn from him, which I kind of knew but he put words to it, was that art and religion could be mediators or navigators of white fragility or topics, both political, social topics. And so it became very clear. I mean, this is something that I knew, as an artist, I've always seen how art could actually diffuse situations. And so, but it was through the Astrogates and how he actually uses art to kind of talk about really important issues. It really showed me how we need to, if we're going to have these conversations, it has to have the art component or an embodiment component or the experiential component, because then, as you mentioned, it's just talk, and just talk is not going to bring about true transformation. So.
Well, thank you. No, that's great.
That's it. So I kept on pushing for that. I kept on pushing for that because there's a lot of reading. There's a lot of reading material that is really great, and we had to say no. We had to cut down what we're going to read, and because we didn't want it to be, as you said, Hannah, just head knowledge. We wanted a conversation and art making to be a part of the experience, not just read all this stuff, and then regurgitate it.
Amen.
And thank you for your leadership. Oh wait, hey, we have a question. Look at you, running. Thank you for your wisdom and your leadership.
I want to
Aaron.
know how you encountered the Astrogates and why you chose.
Right. There you go.
to-
He was gaining some momentum because the New Yorker and the New York Times Magazine both wrote articles in about the same time period. I think it was 2014, 2016, I don't know, 2015. And I'm like, when I started reading about this guy and what he was doing, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here's my dissertation subject, because I think part of being non-white is that you see the world a little bit more unified and integrated. White people don't. It's more individualistic, and autonomy, is the number one. But when you come from a non-white world, you understand. You have a more sacramental view of the world. You have a more kin-oriented kind of family, and so Gates was kind of bringing all that to the forefront and kind of critiquing the white gallery space on their biases against religion and race. And so that kind of at the same time, he was changing neighborhoods, literally changing his neighborhood by buying up properties and creating cultural venues for his neighbors. I mean, he was doing things like that. It's like, who is this guy? Because even in that, he's kind of pushing against the academic white art world that says that art has to be for its own sake. It can't be for an ethical. And so he started, for me, I saw him as an embodiment of what Christianity should look like. and then by actually digging into his life and finding out that he grew up in the Black church, that he also brought to me, so I come from, I was working for the Center for Faith and Work, and so faith and work, theology for that, for the kind of job I was doing is usually white male, usually Dutch and Reform. And so through the Black church, the early Black church, I got to have a different faith and work understanding. And so this, to me, it was really important to see that instead of only having this white viewpoint of how do we do faith and work. Yeah.
Thank you so very much. Okay, so the last person, mighty woman of God, also graduate up here, amazing administrator, Miss Gretchen. Give it up for Miss Gretchen. All right, that's kind of weak. Let's give it up for Miss Gretchen. your journey
As a leader.
as a leader? Oh yeah, she's one of our leaders. I think I said that earlier. Okay, amazing leader.
So I did not have the great experience that you did or that Aaron did in my group. My group was wonderful, but we were all white, all women.
So you all did your fragility.
Yeah, and we were all very busy too, so we didn't last past the first half of this course. A couple of the women were psychology degree folks, either the 5-year PhD or MFT, so everyone to some extent actually came in with some background in terms of doing the work, but as Hannah pointed out, as Monica pointed out, we can only go so far as white people. If we're not interacting with friends of color, it's all head knowledge, it's not experiential. What I've noticed is as much as I've done work on my own and through this course, and I'm also a TA for vocation formation, which is how I met Monica. The teacher who I TA for is very deliberate about the works of color that she picks. So yeah, I can think I'm all that, but I'm still making mistakes, and I only know that when I say something and a friend of color winces. They're pretty gracious toward me, but I'm realizing that there's still a heck of a lot of work to do, and that can only be done when you are actually in relationship. It's not just reading. It's very easy to excuse yourself if you read. Of course, but it's only when you act it out, when you're in relationship, when you're living it out, that you actually can see how much the work has gone from here to here.
Thank you very much for your honesty. And I'm sure it was a different paradigm with everyone being the same color. You're looking in the mirror going, okay.
Yeah. Could I say that wasn't deliberate? It's just how the timing works.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was, really, we have more white folks at Fuller than, people of color. So, yeah, but it was still amazing. Okay, so we have one more thing before we close out. So, Miss Monica, me and Monica are going to do something now. Oh, so give it up for Gretchen. Did we give it up for Gretchen? Yes, thank you so very much. So now give it up for Monica and me. What can I say? I love the stage, okay.
So this is a song, and I'm going to read the lyrics first for Deirdre to dance to them, improvise. But it's sort of a companion piece to the previous one that I shared. Now, I'm bringing a little bit of closure-ish, but you need the first piece first before this one. And this was coming out of the idea that I had of how do I love myself and how do I try to be a more responsible white person is that, I should try to carry all of the guilt of all of the white people over the last couple centuries so that I can remind myself when I slip up if I catch myself doing something, and that got a little heavy. And so, then wrote this song to work through that as well. When I confess of all this mess I'm in, guilt is no longer mine. Caught up in the divine, I fly free. And if I clear my name of all this shame, the spirit within me reminds so lovingly to fly free. The chains I wear across my back, the shame I bear, the cross I pack, remind me I'm not good enough. No, I am never good enough. I lay them down, but pick them up again, because I just don't trust your spirit that's living in my bones to keep reminding me with groans that have no words but break my heart. And prod me now to do my part, So what if I just dropped this stuff that weighs me down and screamed, enough? Let healing seep into these wounds and hear your spirit gently croon. Fly free. Trust me. Fly free. You'll see. Fly free.